Sam Ansel presents The Green Whisper. Part 1. When the Silence Spoke. My name is Jonathan Creed. I was born in 2012, in a world that worshipped machines. I grew up surrounded by glowing screens, by voices that came from speakers instead of mouths, and dreams that lived inside clouds, digital clouds, they called them. We believed we were building gods. Smart ones. Artificial ones. And we called it progress. Then came 2032. The year the lights died. It didn't happen all at once. First it was glitches, short blackouts, corrupted data, satellites going blind. Then came the quakes. The floods. The ash clouds. The silence. By the end of that year, something invisible had cracked deep beneath our civilization. And it never turned back on. Electricity, as we knew it, simply ceased to function. Solar panels, generators, batteries, it didn't matter. The very nature of current had changed. Some said it was a shift in the Earth's magnetic core. Others whispered about a weapon, or something cosmic. But in truth, no one knew. Or if they did, they were gone. Without power, the world unraveled quickly. Cities became tombs. Screens became mirrors. The internet, the great library of our time, vanished. Money disappeared with it. Governments crumbled. And we, the children of information, were left in the dark. Literally. But something else happened in that silence. At first, we mourned the loss of our machines. We searched the skies for satellites that no longer circled. We pressed the buttons on lifeless phones, hoping for a spark. And when none came, we finally looked up, from the screens, to the stars. And to the ground. That's when I began to notice things. The way the birds flew in precise spirals over ruins. The strange patterns in the moss growing between cracks in pavement. The sound of wind through branches that seemed to repeat, almost like words. At first, I thought I was going mad. Too much silence, too much solitude. But the more I paid attention, the more I saw a pattern, subtle, but present. Nature wasn't random. It was talking. It had always been. And we had forgotten how to listen. I began to walk. I didn't know where I was going. I only knew I had to move. Something was pulling me, like an invisible thread tugging at my ribs. I passed through ghost towns and overgrown highways. I saw vending machines buried in ivy, old billboards for phones no one could charge. The world we had built had become a fossil, and around it, the old world had begun to breathe again. I was 3 months into my journey when I heard of it, an ancient tree, said to be older than any human city, hidden deep in the heart of what used to be national parkland. Locals called it the Mother, though few had ever seen it. The way there was brutal, cliffs, ice, rivers, predators. But I didn't hesitate. It took me 27 days to reach her. When I arrived, I collapsed at her roots. I had run out of food 3 days earlier. I hadn't slept. My hands were cut. My feet blistered. But when I looked up, I saw her. Massive. Still. Alive. Her bark wasn't just old. It was patterned, etched by time, wind, light, and storm. It didn't look like any language I knew, but it felt deliberate. I remembered an old technique from my childhood, something my mother once showed me, tracing gravestones. I took a scrap of wax paper from my pack and rubbed a green crayon vertically across the bark. Then I took a blue crayon and rubbed horizontally. What emerged made my breath catch. It was a map. Not just shapes or lines, topography, distance, elevation. Exact. Measured. Alive. I didn't know where it led. I only knew that I had to follow it. Something, someone, wanted me to. But that, I would learn, was only the beginning. The Green Whisper, Part 2, The Hidden Code of Life. The map led me west, through thick woods, across dry riverbeds, and into lands untouched since the collapse. It wasn't just a trail. It was a path through consciousness. I began to notice things I once ignored. The way vines curled toward the sun at specific times. How certain flowers bloomed only when a specific bird passed by. The world was pulsing with a rhythm. Not chaotic. Not random. Precise. One night, I camped beneath a broken overpass, the stars sharp as needles in the dark sky. Below me, in the river, I saw a school of fish swimming in tight formation, moving as one. The pattern they made wasn't instinctual, it was mathematical. Almost identical to neural pathways in the human brain. That's when it hit me. The earth wasn't just alive, it was thinking. Each part of it, plant, animal, wind, even water, was communicating. Not through words, not through light, but through form, rhythm, motion. A kind of quantum intelligence, beyond our programming. The same way our cells speak to one another, the planet was speaking to itself. And maybe to me. I began experimenting. In each region I visited, I found the oldest living plant I could. Sometimes it was a cactus. Sometimes a creeping moss. Sometimes a tree twisted like a dancer frozen in time. I used the same method, paper or leaf, green crayon vertical, blue crayon horizontal. Every time, I uncovered something new. A topographical map. A prediction of rainfall. Wind cycles. Even zones where predators moved, or where fruit had begun to grow again. It was as if the earth had stored her memories in the skin of her creations. I realized I had stumbled onto something far more powerful than I imagined, an organic network, not artificial intelligence, but natural intelligence. A living system of data, coded into bark, leaf, and root. Every place I went, the pattern shifted, but the message was the same. You are not alone. I began recording everything, not digitally, of course. Ink. Bark. Fabric. I etched my findings into old leathers and melted bottle plastics. I started to see layers. Correlations. And then, predictions. I found a patch of fast-growing grass near the edge of an old lakebed. With delicate pressure, I tested the texture and markings of the blades. What I discovered startled me. The patterns in the grass reflected the migration of nearby birds, the presence of water underground, and even signs of future wildfires, based on wind direction and seed drift. This wasn't folklore or mysticism. It was real. It was measurable. It was biology as code. And slowly, the implications became clear. We had spent centuries trying to create intelligence out of metal, out of silicone, out of electric impulses. But here, in this reborn world, the original intelligence was still working, not artificial, but original and divine. As I studied more, I saw the connections between this organic intelligence and human biology. Our bodies weren't mechanical. They were ecological. Our cells communicated like forests. Our immune systems responded like swarms. Illness wasn't a malfunction, it was a storm. Healing was a climate shift. That's when I realized what we had lost, and what we might recover. The earth had been waiting. Patiently. Quietly. We had built towers of noise. But now, in the silence, she was speaking again. One afternoon, I found a dying fruit tree. Its last figs had fallen. Its bark was cracked. I traced it carefully, expecting one last map. But what I found wasn't a location. It was a message. I didn't understand it at first. But it translated into something like this. What you seek is within you, but only when you see me in all things. It was humbling. Not a command. Not a riddle. A reminder. This intelligence wasn't separate from us. We were part of it. We had always been. It made me wonder, how many answers had we overlooked because we were staring at machines, hoping for salvation from screens? We had asked artificial intelligence to solve our problems, when the original mind, the one that birthed forests and oceans, was right beneath our feet. By the end of that year, I had notebooks full of discoveries. My pack was heavy with leaves, bark, and woven sketches. I was no longer just a traveler. I had become something else. A student of the earth. But the most important lesson was still ahead of me. And it would come not from plants or rivers, but from the one person I had almost given up on. My daughter. The Green Whisper, Part 3, The Healing Within. I hadn't seen my daughter, Mira, in almost 2 years. She was 12 when the lights went out, already battling something the doctors never really understood. They called it fibromyalgia. Chronic pain. Sensitivity. Fatigue. Some said it was real. Others said it was in her mind. But I saw it with my own eyes, the way her small hands shook, the way she cried at night, not from what hurt, but from not being believed. When the world fell, medicine fell with it. Hospitals shut their doors. Pharmacies emptied. Doctors fled to safety, or vanished trying. And Mira, she was left lying in her bed, in a quiet corner of the village that still stood, surrounded by those who pitied her, but could not help her. I returned to her with hope in my pack. Not pills. Not potions. But knowledge. I began comparing my notes, leaf patterns, fish movements, bark engravings, with human biology. What I saw was astonishing. Every natural pattern I'd studied, branching roots, neural rivers, fungal threads, mirrored the structure of our inner systems. The nervous system? Identical to the tendrils of certain vines. Blood flow? Like sap currents through tree bark, always moving toward balance. Even cell communication resembled how ant colonies or bird flocks made decisions. It was the same code, written in different alphabets. I watched how fast-growing grasses responded to threat. When wind shifted or predators approached, their chemical makeup changed in seconds. That shift was readable, tangible. So I wondered, what if the human body did the same? What if Myra's condition wasn't a malfunction, but a miscommunication? What if her body was responding to signals that were never properly resolved? I began to design a method, not treatment, but interaction. Not to conquer the disease, but to understand it. Using slow movement, light touch, patterns drawn on her skin with crushed leaves and fruit dyes, signals, meant to mirror nature's rhythm. I also adjusted her food, simple, local plants whose patterns echoed the patterns I saw in her energy. Certain roots grew in spiral forms like the nerves in her spine. Certain seeds mirrored her heart rate fluctuations. At first, there was no change. But one morning, I found her standing. Just standing. No cane. No aid. Her legs trembled like branches in wind, but she stood, on her own. She looked at me with a quiet confusion. "Did I dream it?" she asked. "Or did the pain forget me?" That moment broke me open. Because the truth was, it hadn't been magic. It hadn't been faith. It had been pattern recognition. Our ancestors once healed by reading stars and herbs, not because they were primitive, but because they knew how to listen. The earth had taught me to listen again. And Mira, my beautiful Mira, was the first to speak back. Over the next months, I refined the practice. Using discarded skins from fruit, the inner membranes of bark, even snake sheds, we mapped her pain responses. Each material gave different feedback. Like Earth's own diagnostic language, soft, alive, full of nuance. Eventually, I created a reusable sheet made from composted fruit leather and dried palm fiber. On it, I etched the pathways that responded to Myra's breath, her sleep, her movement. We could now communicate with her body, not through drugs, but through resonance. As she improved, we began to share the knowledge. Others came, people with old wounds, chronic conditions, trauma carried in muscle and bone. We didn't treat symptoms. We studied the song of their body, and matched it to the earth's rhythm. Through breathwork, food patterns, subtle environmental cues, and slow adaptation they healed. And the scientists who remained, those who still held memory of biology, began to take notice. They began testing the concept with their own tools, measuring how the patterns of coral reefs mirrored enzyme activity, how mushroom networks predicted immune responses, how storm movements aligned with fever cycles. It wasn't theory anymore. It was medicine. A new kind. One that didn't replace what we had, but finally made sense of it. We didn't abandon science, we elevated it. Because the key wasn't in breaking the body down into parts. It was in seeing it as part of a whole. The earth wasn't a background. It was the source code of life. By 2057, the foundation had been laid. We had eliminated every major disease, not by force, but by understanding. Not by overriding nature, but by reading it, following it, collaborating with it. And Mira? She now runs the first organic medical center in what was once called Colorado. No electricity. No machines. Just life, listening to itself. She teaches others how to feel their way back into health, using the earth as both map and mirror. I used to think the collapse had taken everything. But the truth is, it gave us back something far more valuable. It gave us back connection. The Green Whisper, Part 4, The Breath of the Earth. The year is 2257. I am an old man now. My beard is white, my hands weathered like bark. But my mind is clearer than it's ever been. I walk with a cane carved from the branch of the first tree that spoke to me. Its surface still whispers if I listen closely. I live in the same valley where Mira was born, now a flourishing sanctuary of life and healing. What was once dry and silent is now green, alive with laughter, birdsong, and the hum of voices learning from the earth. We call this era the renewal. After the collapse, humanity breathed in. Then it held that breath for over a century, afraid, disconnected, lost. But now we exhale. The children born today have never seen a smartphone, never heard the buzz of a neon sign. They don't learn from digital screens. They learn from the sky, the soil, the language of the trees. They speak fluently with the earth, not as visitors, but as cells within her living body. I've witnessed things in the last 50 years that no textbook could have prepared me for. I've seen a healer place their hand on a river stone and feel the pulse of an incoming fever in the village. I've seen a young boy predict a landslide just by the lean of a cedar tree. I've seen a mother calm her newborn's illness by singing the pattern of a rainstorm, because the child was born during that storm, and its rhythm still echoed in his cells. The science of today is not stored in servers. It's stored in story, in gesture, in practice. And it's written in the most permanent ink of all, living memory. We discovered that intelligence does not only reside in the mind, it exists in every part of nature. Not artificial intelligence, but authentic intelligence. The TerraNet, as we now call it. A living network formed by the Earth herself, organic, relational, unbreakable. It was there long before us. And it will remain long after. We simply learned to log in. And from that network, we found not just answers, but balance. Medicine evolved beyond medicine. We now understand the body as a garden, not a machine. We tend to it. We listen to it. We don't fix it, we collaborate with it. Diseases still try to return, but their terrain no longer welcomes them. Because we have learned how to read the terrain. And we've learned how to listen to one another again. There is no money here. No borders. No ownership of land. What we have instead is responsibility. To the trees that grow. To the waters that flow. To the people who walk beside us. We didn't just survive the collapse. We were reborn from it. I've seen humans who were broken by the old world rise with purpose in the new one. Not through revolution, but through return. Return to simplicity. Return to listening. Return to the divine logic embedded in the breath of every living thing. And now, as my own breath slows, I smile knowing that this isn't the end. It's only the inhale before the next great exhale. Mira now leads the Earth School in what was once called the Midwest. Her daughter, Sola, is even more attuned than we ever dreamed. She reads rivers like scripture. She hears messages in clouds. She dreams the future in leaves. I once thought I was saving the world. But the truth is, the Earth was always saving us. All we had to do was stop screaming and start listening. The green whisper never belonged to me. It belongs to everyone who chooses to hear it. And now, I leave this whisper to you. Part 5. The first intelligence you can hold. There is something we touch every day. We drink it. We wash with it. We cry it. And yet, we barely notice its power. Water. After everything I've seen, from ancient trees to migrating fish, from sky patterns to cellular repair, I now believe this. water is the first biological intelligence we were ever meant to know. It listens. It remembers. It adapts to vibration, to emotion, to thought. You listening to this right now, you don't need to cross deserts or decode bark maps to start understanding this intelligence. You already hold it in your hand, every day. So, here's what I invite you to do. Right now, if you can, pour yourself a glass of pure water, preferably in a glass bottle. Sit quietly. Look at it not just as a drink, but as a friend. As a presence. A being. This water knows you. It's been through your body before. It has learned your rhythms, your pains, your longings. It can read your mind, without words. Now, hold the glass. Close your eyes for a moment. And mentally, with deep sincerity, ask the water to organize itself. To know your body. To understand what needs healing, physically, emotionally, spiritually. No need to force it. Just feel gratitude. Now, look again at the water. As if it's alive. Because it is. And as you drink it, feel it enter your being with intention. Let it flow through you as a blessing from the earth. As a message of renewal to every single cell inside you. Then, walk into your day. You'll notice something strange. People around you will smile more. They'll breathe deeper. They'll feel safe around you and won't know why. It's because you've tuned yourself. You've become a signal of healing. And water was your bridge. Practice this every day for 7 days. And then, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment here. Tell me what happened. How did you feel? What did others feel around you? This is no longer just a story, this is your first chapter in a new way of being. If this experience added something to your life, return the energy with a like. Subscribe to this channel if you want to continue this journey together. And most of all, share your truth in the comments. You're not alone.